Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mediumship by Picasso. My name is Picasso Roberts, and if you're seeing me here, you're hitting me up on my YouTube channel. I am so grateful you're here, and I want you to grab a cup of coffee, cup of tea, glass of wine, even a martini if you want, and just hunker down for a minute. We're going to have a chat in this Getting to Know You series, and today I have a very special guest. Her name is Sabrina Matheny. Sabrina, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I appreciate your being here today, and I appreciate being here today.
Sabrina, what you do for a living is super intriguing to me and something I've always wanted to know just a little bit more about. Initially, I know you as a psychic medium, intuitive healer, all of that. But you are an intuitive designer and a Feng Shui specialist.
Correct.
And now, am I saying it correctly? Feng Shui or Feng Shui?
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui. So can you tell me just a little snippet about what Feng Shui is?
Yes. Feng Shui really is about how we feel in a space. So from my standpoint, there are a lot of things that go into that. When I am in a space, I'm looking at elements and how they are working together, or perhaps in a destructive cycle. I'm looking at how the space is arranged. Does it meet the needs of the client, et cetera, et cetera. The average person would feel the energy of their space in ways of this room works, or it's driving me bananas, or I don't go into this room at all because it just isn't comfortable for me. So I think that we naturally intuit energy in a space. We may not always understand how it can be shifted to make it more nurturing for the people in the space. And that's kind of what I do, is I come in and work with a family or a business and help them bring it back into alignment.
I'm a firm believer of everything is energy. And yes. I'm so fascinated how just moving some things around in your house, either bringing something in or taking something out or adjusting it, can change the whole way that you feel in that space and the way that your clients might feel in that space. And sometimes it's just a matter of just a little shift, right?
Yeah. And you can tell a lot about how someone feels about who they are when you see their personal space. I think lots of times we live with things that may not really work for us, but it just, we just do it because it just seems like something to do. For example, if the door doesn't work properly, or, if when I walk in the house, I can't really hang my coat up or anywhere, or put my purse or keys down, I have to walk across the house. We live with things like that, but it really tells you a lot about how that person sort of sees their needs in the space, and so it's interesting. It's interesting to see the symbols that people put around them that speak to who they are. These are all the kinds of things that when you are in somebody else's energy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Now, tell us, where did you grow up? Where did you start?
So I have always lived in the Southland. I grew up primarily near Raleigh, North Carolina. So just in a small town. I was very fortunate. My dad was an airline pilot and he flew internationally. So we had the opportunity to live abroad for a few years. That kind of developed my love of foreign culture and foreign language. So I made that my what I studied in college, and kind of what I chose to start out in life as a young adult doing. So I was a French major, and then I, lived in France for a little while. And so I think that, having the experience of kind of growing up in a Mayberry type situation, and then kind of venturing out into the world opened my mind to diversity, really. And the beginnings of understanding that people are different in how they think and feel, and what they believe is very different, which is super powerful in my work.
Now, are you an only child or do you have siblings?
Nope, I have three sisters. So interesting, household with four girls and a mama for my daddy coming in, lots of feminine energy. Interestingly, I had four boys, and I can remember when the oldest was about 3 or 4, taking him to a counselor because I just felt like, oh my God, he just is jumping off of everything. He can't sit and play quietly. He's talking and dominating time and energy. And I think something could be wrong. And for her just to kind of look at me and say, no, honey, it's just boys. They're developing gross motor skills first, as opposed to fine motor like girls do. So it was really interesting to grow up with sisters and connecting in that feminine way, and then having to kind of transition as an adult into more male energy. It's fun.
Yeah, your sons, I see pictures that you post, and your sons are just phenomenal human beings.
Yeah, they're beautiful light warriors.
Yeah, they are.
I'm putting good people in the world.
My hat is off to you. I don't have children. I don't have children. I never did. It wasn't my thing, but I'm so proud of you for doing and raising men. And I just think that
sensitive men,
yeah,
men that are certainly able to walk that tightrope of coming out of Piscean times into Aquarian times.
So I want to talk about the impact your energy has on your home, and vice versa, what impact your home has on you. Now, you told us a little bit with regards to that in Feng Shui, but even if you didn't do Feng Shui in itself, talk about, if you could explain to people about the energy that you feel in your home and what your home returns to you.
Okay, that's great. Great question. So basically what happens when we walk through the door into our personal space is the body immediately moves from a more anxious state into a relaxed state, right? So we're moving from outside world to inner sanctuary. So we kind of exhale, which is really one of the reasons that I'm a big proponent in having kind of a drop zone near the entry, because I want you to be able to take off that outside world as soon as possible, right? To move into your personal space. Everything we spoke of just a few minutes ago, everything is vibrational energy. And so we're constantly picking up on our things, just the energy of our things. And so if you have a lot of things that you are not consistently caring for, the energy will slow down. So one of my mantras in my work is, where goes sight, so goes energy. So the amount of time, if I had to stop and stand in front of something of yours, the amount of time it would take me to make a list of everything I was seeing is about the rate at which the energy is moving in your space. And ultimately, we want energy to come in and to circulate in all the areas of the home. So in Feng Shui, we relate the floor plan of the home to emotional areas of our lives. And so we want all of those emotional areas to be fed. So really your home, the idea of the home is to nurture who you are and give you the strength and the confidence and the knowingness to move out into the world in your flow. So when the minute we cross the threshold and step back out into life, we are impacted and inundated with everyone else's energy. And our homes really are the time that we can spend just kind of going inward and receiving energy. It's where, when we're eating, we're receiving nutrients. When we are sleeping, our body is coming back into perfect alignment, into total health. When we're meditating, we're receiving guidance. It's a place where we can naturally be who we are. And that's really paramount in bringing balance to our lives.
It's allowing your home to love you back.
Right. It's a definite partnership.
Yeah.
I have clients that are, talk about the ways in which the home doesn't really meet their needs. And there just comes a point when I'm in those situations where we either have to transform the space to allow it to meet their needs, or we have to face facts that this isn't their home. If
Yeah.
your space can't meet your needs, if it can't allow you to have that yin quality and receive energy, then it really isn't the place that your body belongs, because the body can't be in heightened energy all the time. It really needs to have that balance of that yin. We can't always be in motion.
Yeah. You know what's so funny is that years ago, I lived on Oahu. Some crazy life happenings happened, and I ended up on Oahu. And the place that I got hired at, the woman who became a good friend of mine at that time and a mentor, she was really nice. She told me, we're sitting on a beach one day, and she goes, Hawaii will let you know when it's time to leave. When you get here, it will
Mhm.
embrace you or spit you out.
Wow.
And you have a destined amount of time here, and it will
Wow.
embrace you until it's time to go. And I'll be darned, she was right, because when it
Yeah.
was time for me to go,
Uh-huh.
everything went
No
wrong.
doubts.
Everything. Everything went wrong. I was like, oh my gosh, she was right. She was absolutely 100% right. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Because places, if you think about it, Picasso, places hold energy,
mhm.
right? And so, as channels of light, we are meant to be in spaces for the amount of time to stabilize that space. And when it no longer needs us, it's time for us to take our light somewhere else and to hold the space for more light to come into the planet there. And so, yeah, I think that's completely appropriate when people, that's lots of times why houses don't sell right off the bat. Because the universe isn't quite ready for you to move to the next location. You're holding the space for whoever's going to take your place.
Now your site is Sabrina Matheny designs.com, correct?
Correct.
We're going to
Correct.
make sure that all of your information, for those who are listening and watching, all of Sabrina's information is going to be in the description section of this video. There was something that I watched, and I can't remember if it was on your website or on the YouTube channel somewhere. When I researched you.
Uh-huh.
So when I was looking, I saw a really cool video that you did. You guys watching, please get yourself over to her site so you can see this. It was about sacred space. It was about a
Yes.
10-minute video.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, and I know your answer, and I just want you to go into this just a little bit. Sacred space, does it matter what part of the Bagua it's in? And explain to them what the Bagua is in as brief, and give them the Charlie Brown version.
Okay.
So people can get it.
I might actually have one right here I can put up. So a bagua is just a map that we use in Feng Shui that looks, can you see this?
Yeah.
It's a map that we use, and basically, and I studied with Tara Catherine Collins and was certified in the Western School of Feng Shui. So there are different schools of Feng Shui. That's good to know. What I appreciate about this way of thinking is it really meets Western culture. And so we basically take a floor plan and divide it into 9 equal areas. And the lines of the areas are not determined by your rooms. They're actually 9 equal spaces stretched over your entire floor plan. And that's really good to know, because when you are looking at the energy of the different areas, sometimes they incorporate several rooms.
Your video was about creating that a sacred altar.
Yes.
an
Yes.
altar. So does it
Yeah.
matter where that is in your floor plan?
No, for me personally with clients, I want you to choose a place where you will be undisturbed. That's really what's paramount, is that you have a place in your home that nobody will move your things or touch your things, and that you can go into when you need that space.
Mhm.
Because we're just really building the energy up in that space to help you tune into your team of guides and angels in an easier way. What's interesting, however, is to note where your sacred space is on the Bagua, because that kind of gives you a little insight into the kind of energy that you might be experiencing that would be a little different. For example, in Feng Shui, there is an area that we call helpful people in travel. And that area in particular is conducive to communication from the other side. So the energy would be incredibly supportive there to be able to receive guidance. There's also an area called skills and knowledge and wisdom. That would also be a great area to study meditation and to, begin to look at different schools of thought there. So it would be really interesting, I think, to see where on the Bagua your space is. It might tell you why you're receiving kind of the information. Another quick fun tidbit with that is, if, for example, you really struggle to create that space and have people respect boundaries, putting it in the wealth section, the power center of the home, might help you if you have that option. Depending on what's in that room on your floor plan. Yeah. But it is naturally the energy of what happens in that space tends to feed people, and they become a little more empowered. So if that's a struggle that you have to set those boundaries and let people know that this time that I'm carving out for myself needs to be undisturbed, then that might be a consideration. Just kind of have fun with it.
Yeah, it's important. It's seemingly important to know, I don't know, how you would organically create that space, and then kind of decipher, oh, why did I choose it here? Why did I naturally choose it here? And then look into it. It's kind of cool how it all works out.
Yeah.
I'm going to change channels on you. Are you ready?
Okay. All right.
I noticed in one of your pieces of social media, I'm not sure where I got it on there, that the totem for you happens to be the crow.
Yes.
And I find that really interesting. And I'm an animals person. I love animals. I refer to, one of my favorite books is Ted Andrews.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's one of my favorites. It's one of my go-tos. And if I can't find what I'm looking for in there, then I'll pop online and look. But I'm a huge Ted Andrews fan. I also need to mention to you, as I was writing this out, because I sit in meditation and I talk to spirit and I ask, well, what are we talking about today? What does Sabrina need to talk about, or what do we need to bring to the forefront? And they told me that your boys, how the crow can have a sentinel, like a guard, basically. And they told me that your boys are your sentinels.
Interesting.
And I find that fascinating. So anyway, so talk a little bit, if you could, about how you came to know about being having the crow as your totem.
It's a really good question. My early beginnings of working with spirit guides, I remember having this Native American man presence, but not in Native clothing in the beginning. And I would probably say that it was for years and years and years. And the only thing, when I would go into any type of meditation or have this communication, that I could identify at my young age, this would probably be late teens or early 20s, was it like one feather. And so that's how I referred to him. It would almost be like we'd be having these conversations, always like on this bench out in nature. And so forever, this was who I communicated with, who I was comfortable and built a relationship with early on in my life. And so as I started to transition more into intuitive design, out of strictly Feng Shui, I noticed about him that suddenly when he would appear to me, it was in full headdress. Having these conversations with him, I began to understand that he was an orator of sorts. And he was helping me communicate with others. Basically, for me, that's his how he is recognized for me externally in the world. So when I see a crow, I have this understanding that this is his energy and he is with me. I'm on the right path. And that kind of just evolved over time.
So for the listeners who are not so familiar that, about their guides or, pardon me, things like that, this may then be the beginning of your journey, understanding it. So just know that you're not alone. You have a lot of guides and loved ones from the other side that are helping you on your journey. You can start it here. You can learn from Sabrina. You can learn from me. You can start sort of stepping into that if you're interested, and you can reach out to any of us for help to get a better understanding. You said something on that video, and I was like, oh, I loved that, what you said. Now I'm going to quote.
Okay.
Do
tell.
It was so good. I loved it. You said clear minds pick up clear vibes.
Right.
And I think that is so important.
Yeah.
Because if we're all jumbled here,
right,
everything that we see out and everything that comes in is going to equal that. It's going to be what we call in. So if you can clear the shit out, clear it out, then it brings in the things that you need or things that you're trying to focus on with clarity.
Absolutely.
It's like trying to drive with mussed up glasses,
Exactly. Just this understanding that our physical bodies are our receivers. One of the things that happened to me personally, and I always say to clients, is do not be surprised when you start this work that you will be guided to change what you're eating. And, looking at my journey, like I can remember, going to the refrigerator one day. At the time, my big thing was yogurt with granola in it. And I got the very clear message, no more dairy. And I was like, what? No, I love dairy. I love cheese. I love yogurt. I love ice cream. I love creamer in my coffee. I love dairy. And so I kind of let it go and noticed that every time I started to eat dairy, I felt, I could get terrible stomach pains. It's a lower frequency food, right?
Yep.
And that naturally, as you begin to work with the spirit world, you've got to really take care of this instrument. And that looks like definitely incorporating higher frequency, more alkaline type foods. I do a product called Bio Coffee every morning. But if every now and then I want to have just flat out coffee, I was doing half calf, and I went to a local coffee shop where they do their own beans. And I said, you guys do half calf coffee? She was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I'd like to have quarter calf. She was like, what? And I was like, it's like half calf, but I only want it to be quarter calf. Anyway, super, super woman. And she figured out how to get it all done and help me walk away with a product that I was happy with. But, you know, caffeine is another one of those things because it can really make you amped up and make you super anxious. And that's the opposite of relaxed, which is what you need to be to receive information.
So listen, I understand in going through a lot of the information and in your socials and everything that you write, and you write well.
Thank
And
you.
you write, it just seems seamless for you, the
I
way that
appreciate that.
everything comes across. So I know that you have a blog, and I noticed the writing is just really beautiful. As I wrote that out, they showed me this beautiful book, and Spirit did. So by the way, and if I ever say they, people who are listening, I'm usually talking about Spirit. So they showed me this really beautiful book that I don't know, I didn't see the title, but it is with regards to the movement of things in your home. Do this, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Showing people in this almost like a coffee table book that is big and beautiful and just gorgeous photography, but with the information and the knowledge that people need to gather to get that. Are you writing a book now? Are you?
No, I feel like I have also been picking up on that. I haven't hit upon, I've not built the energy up to start that as a project right now. I'm having a super great time with the articles. I write for Smoky Mountain News. There's an online newsletter written by women and for women called Rumble, which is, to me, you know, Viva la Sisterhood.
Yeah.
Love it. So my favorite thing right now is just giving people little tidbits because I really want you to, I love to bridge the gap and I want to make the information. I love energy principles. I want to make it, you know, something that everybody can access because we're all using some form of this information. And to me, if you can understand the implications of what you're doing, you can move kind of back into a flow.
Yeah.
So, you know, hadn't really considered much about writing in terms of just showing space in Feng Shui. My bigger love right now really is just working with energy principles, you know, working with the universal laws.
Spirit brought in that question about this book for you. And as we're talking now, I keep hearing May. And I keep hearing May, and I keep hearing don't overanalyze it.
Okay.
Just
I'll
relax.
take it. Yeah.
It is more about the beauty of showing the space and the little tidbits of knowledge. Don't overcomplicate it, they're saying, just get it done. And you do beautiful photography as well. So I think once the aha moment comes, it'll just be like done.
The energy will start building.
Let's talk about the mountains and what they bring you.
I would have to say peace. You know, nature is really powerful for me in clearing my energy. I love to look outside. I grew up in a flatter region. And so having lived in the mountains now, when I'm not in the mountains, I really miss seeing things in the background. Like I really look forward to the moment where I begin to see mass and things moving along in the background. Yeah. So I think that when I began working in my early 20s, moved out on my own, I came to this area. And in particular, in Waynesville, North Carolina, I really resonated with the people and felt like it was a good place to shore myself up. And so after many years of living away from Waynesville and then even in Georgia for a little while, it felt like when I had a really big life change, that coming back here to kind of heal and get that solitude, very necessary as I think about taking my energy back out in the world and mixing and mingling with a different part of the world. So
yeah, that's really beautiful. I will ask you, besides the crow,
mhm.
what animal do you feel a kinship with?
I see beauty in all kinds of creatures. I really love snake energy. A black snake energy, because I don't care for, dangerous, copperheads or rattlesnakes or anything like that. I don't particularly want to come upon those. But I really enjoy snake energy because it helps me to understand that I'm getting ready to let go of old parts of myself, and I love change. It's definitely not comfortable for any of us to go through change, but I feel like I am getting lighter and lighter and lighter as I allow the changes to happen without total resistance. So, snake energy, I think, is pretty cool.
Yeah. For the listeners and the people who are watching, one of the really the fascinating things about the snake, and every animal, there's symbolism behind everything. And so we know, and we're sharing with everybody who's watching, that the snake symbolizes transformation, rebirth. And we talk about transformation as then the shedding of the skin. The snake sheds the skin, and we shed the things that don't belong to us anymore.
When my boys were a little bit younger, for Christmas one year, I got them each his little, I don't know if you know this, but he does a little pocket guide. Are you familiar with this? So he's got his big books.
Oh, Ted Andrews?
Ted Andrews.
Okay,
he's also got a little pocket guide. Stephen Farmer also has a pocket guide.
Okay.
But I got them each a pocket guide to keep in their car, because their whole littlehood, anytime an animal crossed our path, it was inevitable. We passed the book around. Look this up. What does it mean? Because, whoever is seeing it, it's relevant, right? Whoever is experiencing the animal, it's relevant. So it's just a beautiful way to increase our language with spirit. It's just another way that they're going to be able to communicate with us, which is really nice.
I was coming home one day, a few moves back. I've moved a little bit, but a few moves back, I was getting ready I was coming around the corner to go up the stairs to the condo that I was renting. And I'll be darned if I don't see a crab on my steps, not on the bottom step, not on the path, but he was 4 steps up.
Wow.
Like, okay, clearly.
What did it mean? What was the message?
It was about being able to maneuver, I do believe, sideways rather than straightforward, being able to get around things.
Picasso, something else to think about with animal energy while we're introducing people to what that is. It can also be like, I don't know if you're ever driving along and you smell skunk. So it's not just seeing an animal, but it's also like smelling that can also be used as a form of communication of, something's not quite right in your world. Pay attention.
Oh, I didn't know that the smell was important as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I know that you write a lot, and that's fantastic. What book would you say has had the most impact on you? If you could choose just one, what would be the one that had the most impact?
Oh, wow. Just one. I think probably, I would have to go back to my beginnings. And it really started my journey. My mother gave me a copy of Where Two Worlds Touch by Gloria Karpinski. And it was my introduction to the spirit world, really. I didn't even know, and that was probably my late teens. I had no idea, you know, all that existed. I was basically raised in a, you know, live in a 5 sensory lifestyle instead of 6. And so really, that book impacted me and started me on the journey of just making me curious. You know, I just need to know more.
What advice would you give to those who are starting over? And they had me at, when they prompted this question, it wasn't necessarily about just relationships. It's
Mhm.
also because of Hurricane Ian
Yeah.
having just destroyed the Gulf Coast, the central Gulf Coast of Florida. They're talking about starting over with anything.
Yeah. I think that I would probably say that, you know, number one, when you've had anything significant that's impacted you like that, I think being super kind to yourself, finding ways to nurture who you are and feel safe, is really powerful, because we really, you know, life can throw so much at us that we really can't be open and vulnerable if we don't feel safe in who we are. So just recognizing that we're not meant to have perfect lives. Anything that happens that is challenging is meant to grow us. And in order to begin to open up to the message of that, we have to love ourselves enough to want to do life in a new way. You know, sometimes I sort of think about things like that, external circumstances, as if you're familiar with the tarot, which you are because you've created your own deck, is like the major arcana cards, you know, where the universe kind of says to you, you know, you fiddle-dicked around in life enough, and we've been gently trying to get you to go here and do this, and you couldn't find the strength or courage or willing to look at it enough to be able to do it. So, you know, boom, bada bing, we're gonna create this experience, yeah, so that there's no choice.
It's
And
true. Yeah.
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 And so, you know, I feel like when you're in those times, all you can do is keep your head above water, and you just want to pat yourself on the back for breathing in and breathing out,
Yeah.
you know?
So for those who are listening, I am so sorry for what you having to go through, but we all know what it is to start over. We all know what it is to have trauma and tragedy in our lives.
Yeah.
It's what we do with those circumstances that really count the most. So
Right.
take everything, take a pause,
Yeah.
and take a pause, breathe in, and be kind to yourself.
And be grateful that, you know, just remember you're still here. You know, I had one of my girlfriends just went through that, and she did not lose her home. It was very traumatic for her, the devastation all around. And she said to me, you know, I'm terrible with storms. This is not my forte, but I am kick-ass in recovery and helping those to other people to recover. I think that, you know, spirit put her there by design.
Mhm.
You know, I think that she's channeling the light in that area, and she's doing everything within her power to help stabilize all the people around her. It's
Yeah.
devastating for sure.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to be in that, going through that. But
Yeah.
do understand that life moves you forward,
Yeah, it does, whether you like it or not.
whether you like it or not. Yeah.
I call it the boot in the ass. For those who might struggle with their faith, it seems godless for something so tragic to happen,
Right.
but there is a plan. So
Yeah.
try to just change lanes and go with the flow as best you can.
Yeah, because
It's
nobody, you don't change anything unless there's a problem. I mean, when things are going really well, it doesn't occur to us to go, you know what, I think I'm just going to create a lot of chaos in my life. you know we want to keep everything moving and feeling good, and there's
yeah,
really no growth in that. There's no expansion. You've got to have the contrast.
yeah, yeah.
Nobody grows in comfort.
One of the very interesting things about you, Miss Sabrina, I did not know that that your family came from a military background, so you were overseas, or not military, but your dad was a pilot, and so
Yes.
you got to travel internationally. So it's fascinating to me. The question they had me right next is, aside from your own culture, if you could choose a different culture to embrace, what would that be? What would you shift into?
Yeah. I've always had an affinity for the French culture. And so, I mean, I love Europe. So, that whole lifestyle to me is pretty powerful. I think because growing up in a small town, I mean, it was kind of like, it was a situation where there was, the group of girls who would call and say, tomorrow we wear a green shirt. And so if you wanted to be in the group, you wore green. It was that kind of, just really small but innocent, rigid type of situation. And
Yeah.
moving abroad, it really opened me up. It was probably the best gift that my parents could have given me. Like, I had zero idea that there was life bigger than the town that I was living in,
Yeah.
you know. And again, like I said earlier, what is meaningful to me in my work today is understanding that, it's important that you think differently than I do. It's good for me to have someone be different from me, because it opens me up to a whole new way of life that I hadn't considered. So having that at a key time in my life, in my development, very powerful. But the French culture I love. I love the language. I love the people. I love the design.
Where
Um,
in France were you?
I was in predominantly in Angers, France, so in the Loire Valley. I studied at the Catholic University there, and one of the reasons that program is so successful is because the accent is kind of pure. So much like in the United States, if you're from the South, you might have a Southern drawl, or, if you live in the North, you'd have a Northern accent. There, the accent is a little more pure. Yeah, that's it, beautiful, beautiful city, great people, good program, had a good time.
France is really beautiful. I had an opportunity to walk about Europe, and I spent quite a lot of time going in and out and around France. So it's interesting. Okay, so talk to us about family ties, about ancestry. Do you
Okay.
know your heritage well?
You know, Probably not. I probably could learn a little bit more. In the work that I'm doing now, I understand with ancestors that there is powerful energy that we carry forward and tends to be cyclical. So, part of the work that I'm doing in my own life, and I think part of the work that as channels of light, maybe we're called to help others do, is to maybe break some cycles, things that, for example, my grandmothers would have dealt with that are no longer serving feminine energy anymore. So in that sense, it's where I kind of keep my connection to honor the women that came before me, and to try and be available for maybe the changes that need to happen in our family.
So, Miss Sabrina, what is your most memorable or your favorite childhood moment?
Favorite childhood moment. Well, I'm sure that there are many that I could think of. I think that, and I don't know that it would just be one time, but one thing that we did in my family, my mother was a bit of a prankster. And we were really big into hiding and popping out and scaring each other. We lived in a big Southern home. And so there were lots of little nooks and crannies where you could put a little body, behind some heavy drapes or under a bed. And yeah, so I think that those moments of learning that we could have a good time, we could make our own fun.
Yeah.
And that being something that, and in fact, I have to say that it was really when I was in college and did that to my roommate and got horrible negative reaction that I didn't realize that not everybody grew up like that. So I just thought it was normal this is just what you do. It's like you have a good time trying to, scare somebody. But those were good memories,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Just
so
having
funny.
fun. Yeah.
I get the image of you hiding behind a curtain, but you could see your little toes sticking
Little
out.
feet. Yeah. And thinking you couldn't be seen. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like we kept score in our heads of how many times we could get, and then you always could identify which sister was the easiest to trick and had fun with that. So
That's so funny. How do you shed light? Like what method or modality do you use to shed light where there is emotional shade?
there probably isn't one thing that I can draw on. I would say that I'm really lucky in that I'm super curious and I am always looking to learn more about how energy works. I guess what would be really important for me to begin to look at anything that was challenging or difficult, I would move myself into my sacred space or safe space and allow my team of guides and angels to begin to work on my energy to calm me. I used my tarot cards, just even shuffling the cards, the rhythm of that, or a pendulum, just to kind of have in my hand to kind of get some of that anxious energy away so that I can begin to tune into my spirit and find a way forward.
That's good.
That and maybe also I'd have to say running. That's always been a go-to growing up. Just being able to shake off the anxiety and being relaxed enough in the physical body to allow something to come through to help me forward.
This is such an odd question. I don't know why I don't know, but I'm just going to ask it because that's what they're having me say. If you could plant a seed of your favorite plant or food, what would it be and where in the world would you plant it?
Maybe I would be thinking, especially at this time of my life, because I'm moving from a more rooted situation into learning to have less things in the world as I am willing to shift into a whole new environment. I would probably say I would plant it in a pot, like a plant that I could take with me. Because I feel like having plants around me makes me feel good and it increases the energy in my personal space.
I think that's why they're asking it and then what kind of plant? Because I think there's something about, I don't understand this question immediately, but as you're talking, I can hear where they're going with this. So, and so what type of plant are you drawn to?
I'm thinking about like this round leaf, and I can't quite remember the name of that. Can you see?
The hydrangea?
No, not the hydrangea. It's the green plant. It's like the best plant in the world if you're not good with plants, because it really doesn't, it's not needy.
Oh, is it a
Um,
philodendron?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes, you
Thank
can't
you.
kill those.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
they're beautiful. And, when they really need water, like I can tune in and see, okay,
they tell you.
you're going to need it, but it isn't needy like every day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And they're just easy, and they feed me instead of it's not more that I have to do. I get way more pleasure out of having them in my office than I feel like I'm having to give to them.
Yeah.
So they nurture. So yeah, I think that would be what I would say.
What they're showing me is you bringing greenery and oxygen to places that there isn't.
Yeah.
And that is the magic therein lies the magic in bringing that to an area. So if it's taking it with you, then that is how you're traveling with your magic and your way of healing areas that you move to. So I understand what they're saying and why the question is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to increase the energy of a space.
Yeah. All right. So tell us, my dear, something about you that nobody would know that might surprise them.
Something about me. Huh. Well, I've already shared that I enjoy scaring people, so not many people would know that.
That's true.
I love murder mysteries, but not like the Murder She Wrote kind, like Murder She Wrote and Matlock, those mysteries back in the day, Monk, Psych, where you didn't see anything horrific.
Yeah,
but
they've gotten so graphic these days. Oof.
It's so, yeah, that you could just challenge your mind and try and pick up clues based on, and I guess that's why now that I'm saying this and I've never thought about it before, that's why I love those mysteries, because you really are having to look at space. You're looking at the screen and you're listening to the words, trying to figure it out, as opposed to DNA and all of this. That's what all of those mysteries were about, right? Catching somebody saying nobody ever brought that up. How did you know? Only the killer would know that.
Yeah.
So really training my ear for clairaudience.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
There
I never
you
thought
go.
about that before.
Interesting. What have you not mastered that you have longed to master?
Lots of things. Yeah, I think that I would love to be more fluent in my French. So I think probably, spending more time abroad and using the language more. I would like to get back into language and just feel more comfortable and confident in speaking. I would love to be better at detaching in my personal life. I would like to, in a moment, be able to understand that most people aren't reacting or responding to me. It's more about their own experience. And if I could kind of like, I catch that, but almost after an experience has happened, I would love to incorporate it more. So as it's happening, I can kind of step back and see the larger perspective when I'm interacting with people. I'd love to master that a little bit.
I think the more you tune in to your clairaudience, that will come so naturally for you. Okay. So imagine in your mind's eye that Mother Mary steps in front of you. What would you say or ask?
That's really beautiful. Mother Mary, I've always felt connected to her as a mother and having kids. And I think that um, I would probably ask for assistance or support or some type of advice on better understanding and relating to young people today. Because I feel like, if I knew in my teens and early 20s what I know now from an energetic stance, the laws, universal laws, how very different my life would have been. But the choices that I made, I would have really tried to live less from third dimension and more from fourth, fifth, right? So I think that really being able to understand young people is really powerful, because there are things that we know that we could share if we had a little bit more common ground, you know?
As I wrote that down, because their spirit's giving me that, what to write. And they said that she is so very present with you on this day.
Mhm.
This, and anybody who's listening, when you get those feelings or that connectivity you'd like to have with an ascended master like Mother Mary or
Mhm.
Jesus or Buddha or whoever it is, that
Right.
all you have to do is ask.
Right. Yeah.
You just
And
have
it's
to ask.
we forget that. I think that we all forget that we have that free will. And unless
Yeah.
we're willing to ask for support, it's almost kind of like they're standing around twiddling their thumbs going, now, are you ready now? Will you let me in now?
It's why they have me ask particular questions for particular people, and
Yeah.
it's why the Getting to Know You series, it's fun and it's interesting, and it's getting to know my colleagues and having people understand and understand that you're attainable and accessible. However, there is something about spirit being able to step in and go, they need this, they need to
Right.
say this, they need to know this, they need to remember this. And that's
Right.
why it's so very important in the question series to be able to get the right question for you from them.
Right.
So it brings everything back up to it's like bringing everything back up to the top, like, hello, remember this? Yes,
Yeah.
you got to
Yeah.
remember this. Ask Mother Mary this, or
Right.
remember this, the French that you speak beautifully already. Yes, just speak more of it. Yeah, just
Right.
speak more of it. And
Right.
they're just reminding you all these little things that I had no idea.
Uh-huh.
And I go, why am I asking her this? But yes, it's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why. So now comes my favorite part of the interview. So I described this, and I have described this on previous interviews, that I love this questionnaire that James Lipton did on when he was interviewing people on Inside the Actor Studio. It originates with Bernard Prévost, who is a French journalist, by the way. And he used to use this questionnaire on a show that he had called Apostrophes. So with your permission, I'll begin. What is your favorite word?
It's my favorite word. Ah. I guess mama.
What is
I love hearing mama.
beautiful? What is your least favorite word?
Ooh. I guess my least favorite word would be maybe the word shut up. I don't like the way it sounds. I don't like the way it feels when I hear it. I never would allow my children to say it. I don't know. I don't like that word.
What turns you on?
Energy work really fills me up and gets me excited in life.
Nice. What turns you off?
people that are closed-minded. It's a real challenge for me sometimes to be around that mindset, because or maybe even dishonesty probably even more. I don't understand it.
Mm. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound. And actually, I did learn this in France, and I used it with my boys and dogs their whole childhood. And it's cuckoo. And it means I'm calling you, pay attention. And so in a crowd, in a grocery store, in a bookstore, it didn't matter. If they heard cuckoo, then they came to find me. So I love that sound. It reminds me of good times.
And what sound or noise do you hate?
I hate noises like that. Could you stop? You immediately freeze like something's wrong.
It's true. That's so true. What is your favorite curse word?
Oh gosh, probably fuck.
Yeah. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
If I couldn't do energy work, I've thought about doing just flat out interior design. And I've also thought about flat out doing counseling. Would be a struggle because I'd always want to bring the energy into it, but it's something that, I don't know, feels like a good time.
And if heaven exists, what would you like to hear when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, sister.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
You're
beautiful.
home. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, that's it, my dear.
It's been a good time.
You
Thank
did
you.
so lovely. And what a great time really getting to know you and being able to experience some of the things that you've been through, and in your knowledge and what you have to offer people is just truly amazing. So I'm so grateful for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You asked some really interesting questions. So yeah, those were off the cuff answers, but it was fun to think about. A lot of things like that, I've never really slowed down enough to consider. So interesting. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Let's take a moment and let people know where they can find you. So just say what your socials are. And then for everybody listening, please know that the links for all of these sites and everything will be listed in the description section. So where can people find you?
So basically I'm Sabrina Matheny Designs. So you can find me on my Facebook. I have business page, and my website, my Instagram. If you were to follow Smoky Mountain News, I'm in the Rumble section there. So the online newsletter. And yeah, that's where I am.
I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. And I would like to make sure that everybody who's listening, please make sure that if you're listening here, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you like the videos, hit the little bell so you can get notified of new videos coming up. If you want to book a reading with me, just go on to mediumshipbypicasso.com, or you can see me on Facebook. It's Mediumship by Picasso, or this here YouTube channel, Mediumship by Picasso. It's a theme.
Yeah, you keep it simple. You streamline and keep it simple.
Listen, everybody have a brilliant day. Take care of yourselves. Please, be kind to yourself and just take it all one step at a time. Don't take it all so seriously, and peace.
Namaste, sister. Thank you.